right, what's up, everyone? So I'm actually here with the Dave's Superpowers, and for those of you who may not know, that he's actually the guy behind Objective Personality.
Got into the Myers-Briggs stuff early on, like in 1999 was the first time I really started getting into Myers-Briggs and stuff. And for a lot of years, it was the same deal as most people, just playing around with the letters and the types and reading the profiles and getting a lot of personal growth out of it and seeing it apply in real life, and then kind of finally hitting that stage of like, okay, as we're growing up, getting older, starting to turn into adults, because I'm 42 now, so started this when I was like 20,
Yeah.
and just going, okay, is this really scientific? Is this really applied? Can I take this to my adult life? Was kind of the question that we hit. We were just getting very great subjective understandings and results from the customers, and also applying that to sales. So we're getting some objective measure, like to see the sales go up or down. Like, it was very funny to go, all right, I bet you the sales are going to go down. I'm going to send out a newsletter according to my functions of what I like, what I think is really great. I think it makes sense to me, but I know that's not my customer demographic at this time. I bet you the sales are going to go down. And sure enough, you watch them go down, and then you do everything backwards, to yourself, right? And the sales go back up. It's like out of a movie where like it turns on you, where you start to see your own darkness and your own life problems. Someone like yourself is probably an ideal person to type, because you have a large library of videos in all sorts of different states. Some are like personal vlogs, some you're kind of like putting on a skit, some you're hanging out with your buddies, some you're sharing your thoughts and your feelings, some you're processing. So it's just like the whole gamut is all over. And then the best thing too is time, like as far as like years, where you can go back in time and see what is the consistent patterns. Actually, one of the things that hit me was like masculine intuition. Like, your intuition is very, very strong, very confident. Like, that's just what I randomly picked up on towards the beginning of when I was watching you. It's a fascinating, it's attraction. It's also like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so confident on the guesses? And so Shani, being a logic monster, she would be like, oh my gosh, I want to slap the feelings off this guy's face. For me, it was like, I'm like, this guy's got a lot of masculine N, a lot of masculine NT, a lot of masculine like logic blocks, like figuring out stuff. This is how it works. This is how other people should do it or not do it. And if people disagree, then this is how we should deal with disagreements. And we got to figure out the logic. And if you don't figure out the logic, it's just like this is all foreign language to me, So I'm kind of like writing that down. And then I'm looking at the saver state. The saver state is like, he's not unaware of his emotions. He's not unaware of feelings. He's not unaware of other people's feelings. So I'm seeing the FE, just because but that's like the savior. That's like the default. That's like the automatic. But it's like what you're then trying to go for is the NT, or is the deeper demons or whatever. Yeah, we can give a quick rundown. Yeah. So it's like, if you're somewhere taking notes, you would kind of draw this out. Usually what I like to do is start with just like a circle that represents the brain. Then you have the four letters, S, N, T, and F. So just kind of that brain mapping, like everybody is going to get an introverted or extroverted charge on those letters. So if your S gets an extroverted charge, then your N, which is the opposite coin, gets an introverted charge. As simple as that. Your T gets an introverted charge, your F gets an extroverted charge. And introvert and extrovert is just defined by subjective or objective, or personal to me versus what is going on out in reality. Then you enter into the next page on your imaginary notes, and now you have the function stack, the traditional Myers-Briggs function stack. Right. And so now you have a type, let's just say ENFJ, now you have FE, NI, SE, TI, and then this stack order is saying this top one is the dominant, the bottom one is the little one, and you got the two in the middle. Mm-hmm. And then they're just laying out based upon now what we call saviors, which is just a preference. So now we'll enter into new territory, is when you have two functions working together, that's what causes the animals. So for example, if you're FE and NI, when those two are working together, that's creating the animal of blast. So what does that mean? Blast is just taking your known information, which is going to come from your NI or SI. In your case, your NI, your known organized observer. It's taking that and then sharing it with the tribe. The opposite of that is taking in extroverted information for the self. So rather than sharing known for everyone, blast, you're taking in extroverted for self, and that's consume. So then the other two, I'll go quick. The other two are sleep and play. So sleep is just any two introverted functions working together. And your sleep is just your introspective. It's everything you and I are going to do after this interview. We're going to go away. We're going to go on a walk. We're going to talk it out with somebody else. We're going to take a nap and go, all right, and all that crazy hogwash I just heard, how much of that is relevant to me? How much of that have I seen before? How much of that is important? How much of that can I take away and I use? And then that'll kind of build and strengthen the person's inner worldview, whether it's SI or TI or FI or whatever. The play over sleep is they just run. They're on to the next thing. And so there's a tidal wave of, hey, you need to process that. Like you got hurt, you got offended, or maybe you learned something very valuable and you didn't like stop and process and really connect the blocks, you know? And therefore you're doomed to just go keep extrovertedly relearning the same thing. So Shani's lead play, she's TE and SE, she's an ENTJ that skips her NI. So when it comes to organizing and concepts and NI, that's her demon. Like she'll do that. She prefers to just gather in more SE. So she's TESE. So we call it play because they're very good at like doing things. Like if you just run over to somebody's house, like, hey, let's go to the beach right now. The lead play is like, all right, I don't have any plans. I don't have anything else I was doing on, internally. Let's go. When you toss them a ball, they're all geared for extrovertedly observing that extrovertedly, and then extrovertedly, let's go do it with the tribe. So somebody who's low in play is like, oh my gosh, the tribe and their BS and their crap, and I had this inner world and it interrupted it. There's new information I don't want to sort out, Yeah. So like the masculine, feminine, we're seeing it's very much like the old cartoons, the old Bugs Bunny cartoons always portrayed, the big masculine and then the smaller pixie feminine. And it's something that like, it's almost like we have the 128 personality types and then there's 4 sexual versions of each type. That's kind of how we look at it. So like a masculine function is more solid, it's more structured, it's more sure of itself, it remembers more, and it's also more shovey and frustrating. And when you combo that with like a savior, so if you have a masculine function that's a savior, now it's just like on steroids. And then there's a whole spectrum all the way down of like feminine TI at the bottom. That's going to be, not only is it a demon, so it's like, I don't have enough firepower to really be responsible for this. But then the femininity of it is like, it'll always forget. It'll whoosh, it'll forget. And so we're seeing that with saviors or demons. So the femininity of a function, it's something that like you're constantly having to reinvent, So if you had feminine TI, you would figure out the logic and figure out the reasons and the personal, and then tomorrow morning it'd fall out of your head. You got to do it all over again.